Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Miranda and I love shark movies. I don't know why I said that like it was like a support club that I'm admitting this to and everyone's gonna be like, hi Miranda. No, I love shark movies. It's one of my favorite things, and naturally because of that I was very excited to see that there was going to be a sequel to 2018's The Meg 2, The Trench. I really liked The Meg when it came out. Was it the best shark movie ever? No. My favorite shark movies are actually Jaws and The Shallows. But it was fun. I feel like the characters were entertaining, the story was fun, the Meg looked pretty good, and the action was solid. So I was really excited that it got a pickup for the sequel. Now, something that I feel like is kind of a little known fact, but also like a big known fact because it's just one of those like bonkers facts that people like bring it out at parties to like just blow people's minds. The Meg is actually based on a series of books, and I knew this, and The Meg 2, like The Trench, is actually like the title of the second book, but I was looking them up yesterday just to try and like find out more about what this series is exactly, and it is still an ongoing series. The Meg 2, The Trench, came out in 1999 according to Wikipedia, and there's still books coming out. It says like the next one's going to be released in 2024 or 2025, so I don't know if that's a thing where like the movies kind of reignited interest in these or something like that, and now they're writing more. But we could keep these Meg movies going for a long time is what I'm trying to say. So I also want to try and do research into like the Meg, the Trench, just to see how similar the book was to the movie. Like I said, I just felt like it was very like they added in a lot of stuff, so I was like, oh, maybe it's because this was in the book, but also like how much are we really like realistically staying towards the book, right? I tried to look it up, and from what I could read it seemed different, and I'm gonna be honest with you, the Wikipedia page was so long for it, like so long just to read what the book was, and to be fair, it felt like I ain't reading all that, I'm happy for you, or I'm sorry that that happened, you know? So I feel like in talking about the plot now, I feel like if there's something I don't like, the excuse can't really be used of like, well, it was in the book, because like they very clearly did not follow the books in other aspects. So if there's something that like I was like, I don't think this really worked, and then you know it's like, well, it was in the book, it's like not really a good excuse. So yeah, let's dive in to the movie. The Meg 2, The Trench picks up a few years later after The Meg. And like I said, I really liked The Meg. I think it was entertaining. I think Jason Statham was like a fun hero, kind of where everyone is like so invested in like finding these sharks, and like everyone's like, yay, science, and he's just like, this is a terrible idea. And like he always like gets in the dangerous situations, but it's just like trying to keep other people from danger. Like literally watching this movie, I was like, I don't know if I want to be with Jonas because he always ends up saving you, or if I want to be as far away from Jonas as possible because he always ends up in danger, right? Like it's one of those two. The big thing that really annoyed me was that Soo-yin is dead. So she is Mei-ying's mother from the first movie, and also like Jonas's like love interest kind of from the first movie. So she's dead, which I get maybe the actors didn't want to return. I fully understand that, but killing her off, I just feel like is such a cheap out, and I feel like does such a disservice to her character and the character growth we had with her in the last movie, and like everything with her and Jonas's character, her and her daughter, her and her dad. Like I feel like it just throws it all out the window because she's dead now. And I feel like, again, I get like if she didn't want to come back, that's fine, but I feel like there were more creative ways to solve that, right? Like one, she could have been on like an underwater station somewhere else where like they didn't have phone service or something, and like she couldn't get up quickly enough in time to help them deal with this new Meg problem, because it seemed like it all kind of took place more or less in like a week. So that I feel like you could have easily done. Or what I think would have been really sweet is like her and Jonas could have been having a baby, and she could have been on like bed rest and like not able to like be around anything, which I think is kind of like a harder sell if like her daughter and Jonas were in danger for her to not come around. But like if she literally like the doctor's like you can't move, and like we get texts from her and like updates, I feel like either one of those would have solved the issue and made it more like satisfying for the characters and their arc, because just to have her dead and her daughter just be like, yeah, I miss my mom, and you know, like it didn't work. It was just a cop-out for me, like a cheap way to be like, the actress didn't want to come back, so we killed her character. And I also feel like introducing the idea of her brother, I get in a sense, because Mei-ying now still has like an actual blood relative, but at the same time, I feel like, again, it did such a disservice to everything we had learned about with her and her dad last movie because they have it like a very like loving relationship, but there was obviously like suggestions about like he was very hard on her growing up, and I don't think there was ever any mention of a brother. They even say in this movie like the girl is like, Mom and Grandpa talked about you all the time, and I'm like, when? Because I never saw it. That just kind of felt like, yeah, we were replacing her with him, and even like the way him and Jonas interacted made me laugh so much because it was like literally the way him and Soo-young interacted in the first movie. I was like, are you guys gonna get together? Like, I'm all for that, don't get me wrong, but it's like they even did the thing where like her flirting in the first movie was being like, oh, I'll feel a little bad if this doesn't work and you die. And then he almost does get eaten by a Meg, and afterwards she's like, I feel a little bad. And they do that same thing in the movie with these two. Like, he's like, how much did you think about leaving me here? And then Jonas is like, that much, which I guess was supposed to be like a family bonding thing, but like their whole interactions were literally just like, I was like, okay, so these two are gonna get married, right? Like, it was just interesting that that's the route they decided to go down. I did really, really love Mei-ying and Jonas's relationship. I mean, it's been said time and time again, but there's something so adorable that just gets at your heart about like a gruff dad who's mean to everyone else but has a soft spot for his daughter. And it was really nice, I think, seeing him step into that parenting role. Again, it felt kind of weird because we had missed a bunch with like her mom's not there, but it just was sweet to see him like take care of her. And I also think like seeing her specifically follow in her mom's footsteps, and her grandpa's actually, and be involved in like the submarine stuff and the ocean and all that, I think that was a really nice development for her now that she's older, and it was just really sweet to see them. So I liked that. I think my biggest takeaway, which I'm really gonna harp on, is just these felt like two completely different movies. So I guess if you didn't like The Meg, maybe you'll like this one because like literally most of the characters are completely different. But I feel like that is also one of the weaknesses of this film. I feel like in the first one there were like not a ton of characters, or they didn't have a ton of growth or development, but they at least had some depth to them, right? We had Jonas's ex-wife who had like that kind of banter back and forth with him of like, oh, you're the one that has to save me. We had DJ, who does come back for this one, and I'm glad because I think he's one of the funnier characters. We had the Wall, we had the doctor who didn't like Jonas, and there was that tension, but it was understandable because he thought like Jonas had left a bunch of people to die, so that was understandable. And then we had, again, that like tension between like Soo-young and her dad, and even the, I don't even remember what his name is, but I'm just gonna call him Rainn Wilson. His character, I feel like, was an interesting villain because I feel like watching it, like sometimes you actually kind of liked him and he was funny, and then other times you were just like, oh, he's so annoying, but he didn't seem like overly villainous, right? Like there was like depth to him where it's like sometimes you could be like, ah, he's funny, and like actually like was helpful at times. In this one we throw all that out. Most of the characters don't come back, like I said, which is annoying but also understandable like character wise, because if I had gone through what they went through in the first Meg movie, I would be finding a job as far away possible from the ocean as I could. Like, send me to the desert, okay? Them not coming back, it was like actually really smart. The fact that they're like training Megs now and like going down into the thermal like energy trench kind of part like on a regular basis, not so smart an idea. Yeah, the main like characters really that we get introduced to are the side characters. They're just fodder, which is kind of what happens with movies like this. You expect that, but I still feel like we did have some like development and character depth, like I said, to other characters in the first movie who got eaten. So it was frustrating to see that when it's like, especially the first guy that dies just disappears. We don't even really know what happens to him. Like, I don't even think he really got eaten by a Meg. I would say like squid or something grabbed him. Then that one girl sacrifices herself because her heir is running out, which was very reminiscent to me of the doctor sacrificing himself for Ruby Rose's character in the first one. So that didn't feel special or anything. And then the last girl we see, her suit depressurizes and she literally like freezes blood. I don't know what the scientific term for that is, but it's pretty nasty. I'm gonna give you that. But I think just having that happen in a quick succession didn't work because one, I didn't have an emotional attachment to these characters yet, so it was kind of like, okay. And then just the way the character deaths were spread out was not well done pace-wise, I think. Like, if you look at the first movie, we've got Toshi, who dies first, sacrificing himself. Then there's a little bit of a lull until we get to the boat scene when they think they kill the Meg. Turns out there's another Meg. So there's kind of like this hip hip hooray, we saved the day, and then the Wall gets eaten, and shite goes to the wall where, like, well, no, not the wall because he's dead, but like metaphorical wall. And the boat is completely sunk. They're like trying to swim. There's all these tense moments of people almost getting eaten and stuff. The doctor sacrifices himself for Ruby Rose's character, like I said, and then like 5 minutes later, like once the Meg is kind of not contained, but like they've moved on from that, Soo Young's dad dies in like this really like emotional moment and stuff. So I feel like just the tension of that was not good, because it's like we had the 3 characters die in succession pretty much, and then there was probably like 30-ish minutes, 30 to like a good like 45 minutes before the next character death, which is Skylar Samuel's character getting chomped on by the Meg, which we'd already seen from the trailer, so that kind of took any like surprise out of that. A majority of the kills, I don't even think like character-wise, like not extras, but I'm saying like the characters that like we are introduced to, I don't even think the Meg kills them. Like that was like my biggest takeaway from this, that I was disappointed. Like halfway through, I think when they were like down at like that station they had found, I was like, where are the Megs? Like this movie is called The Meg, and all of a sudden we're getting into like illegal like underwater mining and stuff, which, don't get me wrong, like that's an interesting concept on its own, but I feel like that's a whole separate movie, you know what I mean? You didn't need Megs for that, and I think it took away from the sharks. Like, we came here to see the sharks, so it's like when you're getting into like all this convoluted stuff, you don't need it. Like, the tension is having a Meg that could chomp you in half. Like, you didn't need like this added villain to add more tension to it, because you already have such a high stakes concept that to add that, I feel like, was very frustrating. The villains also made 0 sense to me. Like, I feel like there was no reasoning other than like money, which I guess is a reason, but like it was just, we were introduced to this lady who we had never met before, and then all of a sudden she's like part of this illegal underwater operation, stealing their technology and wants to kill them all. And it's just like, I feel like they could have added in something of her like in her speech being like, oh, like before like I invested in this company, like I was at the bottom and like no one really like thought I should take a chance on it because I didn't have a lot of money, and then all of a sudden she has money, so like in your mind as a viewer you're kind of like, okay, like just hackles up for something. Or if there had been like maybe like news articles about like her losing money, so like they were really trying to find like a big discovery, like even with the Meg that they were training, if they were like, oh, like, you know, we really need the funding, like she's kind of running out of money, so like if we can get this Meg up and running that like the public could come see it, that would be amazing. Like, I just felt like it seemed like she had enough money, and she clearly had money before, so what was the motivation really, aside from like the one-dimensional, I just want more money, you know, like that just didn't seem like it made much sense to me. And I feel like, again, just if you had tried a little, like pushed a little more with the writing, you could have come up with just like a basic idea, but just something that kind of sticks in the audience mind of like, when she does turn bad, you're like, oh, because I do feel like the other thing is when they're like, oh, there's a mole on the Mana One, right? And it's like, Mac is talking to DJ, who we've known since the first movie, and then this random girl, Jess, who we just met, and is like, there's a mole, like, who could it be? And you're like, who could it be? A random person that we haven't met, a man that we know from the first movie and know that is trustworthy, or this girl that seems to have access to everything who we don't know. Like, I just feel like it took away a lot of that tension. And there was even like a part at the end where like Jonas like almost killed the Meg, and then like Jess's boyfriend like shoots him or something to like distract, like, because he's just like, I've got to kill Jonas, which is so dumb, because like Jonas didn't kill your girlfriend, okay? A Meg killed your girlfriend, so like if anything you should want him to kill him. And it was just like, I was like, oh, in the audience, because like it's so like, you already have tension. I'm already on the edge of my seat like watching him fight this Meg and like jet ski around it and try and shoot at it, and then you've got this guy just chasing after him, and I'm like, I don't need this. Like, it's not adding anything. It's just frustrating me because it's taking away from the main action I want, which is the Meg. And I do think in addition to that, like I said, they were in it so little, and then when they weren't like explained very well. Like, I thought there was gonna be a reason from the moment I saw the trailer. The Megs look beat up to heck. Like, they look like they've seen some shit compared to the first movie, and I thought there was gonna be an explanation for that. No explanation. Like, they're just different. And again, you could have used it as a great way to like further the story of being like, wow, that Meg looks really beat up. What could do that to a Meg? Another Meg? No, it would have to be something bigger, and like put down the hints kind of the giant octopus squid coming down, right? That there's something bigger out there that's like a threat to the Meg, instead of just like randomly being like, oh, now there's a squid. And the squid and the dinosaurs, we didn't need both, okay? I'm gonna be honest. Like, the dinosaurs were clearly just added to get some tension to the, like, land, so it's not like, oh, if we're on the land, we're safe. But the squid kind of did that, because it could reach when you were, like, on the dock, and it had, like, a pretty long reach, so, like, unless you were, like, very far inland, you kind of could have got eaten by it. And I just feel like it was just frustrating because it was like you didn't need to add in all this stuff. You already have a Meg. And even like, again, adding in the squid, fine, you know, it's cool, I guess. But like to add in the dinosaurs on top of that, I was just like, no thank you. No thank you, ma'am. And then I feel like also, I was thinking about this afterwards I saw the movie, did anyone actually react to the squid? Because like, they were all so surprised, which again, as someone who watched the first movie, I was not. But when they were like, oh, we gotta like, when the Meg's like following them because it breaks out of its habitat, and they're like, oh, we gotta get through like the thermal thing to the trench, it's our only hope because it can't breach like the temperature change. I was like, okay, first movie, when you guys did that really fast, that opened up a big column for a few minutes, and then that's how the Megs came through. So then it's like they do that, and then surprise, surprise, the Meg came through. And I'm like, am I the smartest scientist here? Like, is my PhD coming in the mail? Because it's like they just seem to forget everything that happened in the first movie. The point is they don't react to the squid at all. Like, I don't think anyone's like, where did that come from? Or when did that come up? Like, it's just like, you know, a squid. Which, honestly, I guess at this point, if this is your life, like, giant squid, you're just like, yeah, I guess so. I also feel like the other big thing is the science in this movie was not sciencing, okay? The science in the first movie was barely sciencing, but I, as someone who have not taken a single science class since, like, oceanography in college, knew that half of the stuff they were saying didn't make sense. I talked about the thermal thing, which obviously, like, you should have known from the first movie, but then there's also a part where, like, they're 25,000 feet under the water. The pressure would kill you instantly. Like, I feel like that's just a known thing. And Jonas free dives. And they're like, no, it's fine if, like, he actually breathes through his nose. Like, if he does that. Because it's the air. It's actually not the pressure. And I'm like, no, you would die instantly, actually. Instantly, your bones and your body would be crushed. So, like, that kind of stuff, I was like, I'm not this stupid. You know, like, if you want to make up your own science, that's fine. If you want to be like, hey, I made this techno suit that can walk underwater, that's fine. I can't believe that. When you start trying to change, like, actual science and be like, actually, if you just breathe through your nose, you're fine. I'm like, no, I don't actually think that's how that works. Overall, it was just disappointing. I wanted more Megs, like I said. I didn't need the extra tension of, like, having this, like, villainous group that was very one-dimensional, like I said. I feel like their motivations were just so, like, green, and that's it. There wasn't, like, any sort of more to it of, like, my family was killed by a Meg, or even, like, people who were like, hey, you shouldn't be studying this. Like, people are gonna come up, and things are gonna come up, and, like, we shouldn't be messing with this. Like, I could see that, but, like, it was just literally someone that wanted more money from something, and that was just frustrating. I do love DJ's character in this. I think he was very fun, because, again, much like the other characters, how, like, you would get as far away from the ocean as you could. I love that he was like, this is not happening again. I am being prepared for this situation if it's going to happen, because you know it will. He taught himself to swim. He took defense classes. He was stacked with an arsenal of weapons to deal with, and you know what? It helped and saved the day in the end. So I think that was like a fun addition, because normally it's like characters come back for a sequel and it's like they haven't learned anything from the first movie. So I like that he was like, no, I was lucky enough not to be Meg fodder in the first movie, and it will not be happening in this one. So overall, I think it was just, yeah, disappointing. Not enough Meg, like I said, and I think the characters that we did get that we lost compared to the first movie weren't comparable. I think they were entertaining and fun, and like you kind of cared for them in the first movie. These ones just seemed like, yeah, fodder. Except for Regis. I did love Regis. Like, I was hoping on my knees that she was not going to be, like, a traitor or die, because she was just so badass. I loved her, honestly. So, yeah, if you have seen this movie, let me know what you thought about it, especially compared to the first one. I would give it 2 out of 5 fins, personally. I just think it could have been better, but if they want to make more, I'm definitely down for that, because, like I said, I love shark movies. It's just, I want to see sharks in my shark movie, you know, not dinosaurs, giant squid, villains that have no meaning to the plot, and everything like that. So yeah, if you have seen it, let me know what you thought about it down below in the comments. Also, make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!